Good morning. How you doing, Mr. Kelin?
Morning.
Welcome to Young. I didn't even wait for your response. There's
Yeah,
no-
you don't really care. It's fine.
We do that. So anyway, it's Monday morning, Youngstown's Talk channel. I gotta rant a little bit and unwind. We didn't do a whole lot of talking last week, and I feel like we went 1 week where it's all we did. Couldn't even shut us up to doing almost nothing at all. So let's do. You got anything on your brain before I get rolling?
Not really. I feel like you got some good stuff.
Well, it's not as good. It's fulfilling for me. Like I'm inflicting it upon you.
Okay.
But this is something I need to get off my chest. So I'm a little bit of a rebel in nature. The best way to get me to do something is tell me that I can't do it.
Oh, right? Good to know.
Yeah. Might manipulate me on that.
Yeah.
All right. So, but the thing is, there are certain things that through either political correctness or, the algorithms and AI deciding what people should be talking about or not, that's really starting to really get at me. I get told just about every other week, there are certain topics that if you talk about it on social media, you immediately lose traction and nobody sees those things.
Yeah.
And so I think the best thing to do is to say those things, but say them so often, right, that eventually the algorithm has to permit people to exercise their free speech, no matter how unpopular it is. And it's up to you, the listener and the viewer, to throw back at that. And you know what the number one topic that gets us off of traction on platforms?
What?
Health. Number one. The number one thing. There's some number one. So we could take a video
that makes a lot of sense
that talks about something really brain like void of all intellectual value, and we get tons of exposure to it.
Yeah.
So the consuming
brain rot or mind rot, I've heard it referred to.
But you start talking about health or medications or nutritions or whatever, and there's two reasons for this. Number one, it's probably one of the most exploited topics that there is. So every snake oil salesman on the planet constantly making videos about selling trash products to people that are health bullets, right?
Yeah.
But we're not doing that. You and I have rabbit holed the health and nutrition thing so much, and we are picking up things along the way that absolutely have mathematical and science value. And all we're doing is throw them out there because we're interested in it.
Yeah.
And those should not be caught in the net of the slimy salesperson deal, especially from a political standpoint. If you have a whole branch of government that is now turning over and embracing, alternative, sort of like, I'm not going to say alternative medicines. I'm going to say like alternative theories of medicine that I believe have some value to them, some weight to them.
This is so interesting for two reasons. One, I was actually just thinking about this recently about words that I'm finding online you can't even say.
Yeah.
Like you have to find euphemisms for certain things, which is so weird. Number one, that we can't even say the words. And then two, several months ago, we had a guest on a podcast that I did, and it was a female personal trainer, and she works with women over 40 to get fit. And there was absolutely no selling, no mention of products, no pushing anything, just simple information about the importance of building muscle as a woman over 40 and the health benefits of that. And I was really surprised as to how little traction that got when, if you Google topics, the biggest ones that appeal to females are fitness influencers, but influencers, the fitness products and things of that nature. And I'm like, what? And we just can't simply give out information that is beneficial to people without pushing anything. And it is interesting to see who gets the traction and who doesn't.
Yeah, and they're gatekeeping information in a way that they have really great reasons for doing it. And we saw that during COVID. If you even mentioned it, you got some people got deplatformed and they got penalized for bringing up a topic of discussion. And so that rebellious nature that I have wants to really, really, really push on most of that. Like, I don't know if you saw the word retard has sort of bubbled to the surface again. And it was one of those words
that even makes me go, oh, we're getting in trouble. We're getting in trouble for saying it.
So a lot of high profile people have now taken liberties to bring that word back into normal conversations.
Ooh,
Okay.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And again, what happens is when you take a term and you try to make it so radioactive that somebody doesn't want to use it, it makes some people want to use it even more, because when they use it, then it gets extra attention to it.
Yeah.
Okay. But when someone, I don't use that word because I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it adds to what I have to say. But talking about it means that you have to almost make a divide. Are you talking about a disabled person and you're making light of something that might make them feel bad? Or are you using it? So for instance, when you see the sign going down the road and on semi trucks, it says you're not allowed to use brake retardants, right?
Yeah.
Which that doesn't snap you to, used in that way, it doesn't snap you to attention and saying they're making fun of retarded people. They're saying an engine retardant. So if you used it in a way, a math way or a science way, it would be acceptable.
There's a musical term, retardando, I think, is
right.
To slow
but we're
down.
not using that. We're using it just for its nature to offend somebody, make them mad at you, make them
We're using it as
whatever.
like a slur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But Joe Rogan had brought it up, and he said that being able to use it then without getting shut down was a win for free speech. Okay. Which, okay, how far do you want to take this? Right? Do you want to take all of the terms? The N word, for instance, we don't even say the actual word. We just say the N word. Should that be something that, it would be a win if we were able to bring that word out and use it just in our everyday? Or is the goal with communication not to immediately shut someone down by offending them to a point where now you just get anger and you don't get any kind of value in what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And to me, I'm big on intent. What was the intent behind it? Was it someone just using a term for a specific reason? Was it somebody using it to be hurtful? My brothers and I were not allowed to say the R word when we were growing up. My parents or my mom works with developmentally disabled adults, and we were not allowed to call anybody that word.
This is from your perspective.
Yeah.
Right. You don't like it. So if you don't use it, that's cool. Right.
Yeah.
Are we now going to take language and communication and put a standard of what I don't like to hear versus what if you said, what if I brought up to you a word that you use on a regular basis causes offense to me and I don't like it? Should I be able to tell you then that you no longer can use that word because it offends me?
I mean, you could say I don't like that word. It offends me.
So if I kept using it, right?
Yeah.
Who has the upper hand?
Who polices it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be nothing, where we don't say any words that cause confrontation, and then I could just all I have to say is that I don't like it anymore, and we've limited all of communication because again, we're just going to manipulate the shit out of that and make it so no word could be used because it's going to cause some offense to whatever. Or is it just certain people that are allowed to be offended, and then we listen to them, and all of these people over here, we don't listen to those people. It's giving almost a permission or a power to somebody to be offended, and we react to it.
Yeah. And it's so weird too, though, because there are sort of these like radioactive words, like these like big no words that we have sort of a reaction to, but now we're putting that same reaction on things that didn't used to. Like, have you ever watched a video, and it could even it could be somebody just on a podcast, or it could be an actual news source that now has to say somebody was unalived? I went, what? Like, we can't even say somebody was killed. Somebody was unalived. And so now it's like, is that word going to sort of now go into the realm of these other ones that we're like, oh, you can't say that. Can't say that.
There's a danger in that because so long that, let's just say your ideological persuasion, if you're catching all the wins, then you like it because then you are getting all the benefit. But what if you're not? What if the language is important to you? For instance, comedians were lost a whole lot about how they could shock a crowd by having certain words had to be dumbed down. Or again, their reach would be limited if they chose to make light of something that other people might find offensive.
Mm.
And so we went for a lot of years about being offended about everything, and we made certain words off limits. And now that pendulum is swinging in the other direction. So this is a symptom of all the rebellious spirited people know that we went completely too far. And if we were trying to lock down and say, okay, well, we need to have discourse and proper communication and exchange of ideas, and those words are in contrast to having good conversation, that's a great starting point. But so long that you're cool with these constraints, but don't like these ones, now we just have a wokeism in language.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that it's swinging in the other direction. I'm unhappy that we're using the dumbest things in our culture to be able to illustrate the problem with discourse.
Yeah, it feels like we keep doing this. We keep going too far. We almost come up with a certain type of standard, maybe, if you will, as to how to be thoughtful and kind to people. But then it's like, well, then it goes too far. Then it's, well, now you can't do this, and you can't say this, and you can't say this, and you can't. You're like, whoa, what the heck? Now it's like, well, now I'm not allowed to say or do anything that I typically would.
There's a natural reason for that, and it happens everywhere. We use our dollar bill deal, right? You could take something that's wholly good, right? And the longer that wholly good thing lasts, the more it will be exploited, and someone will take advantage of it for the other reasons. And now they've ruined the good thing, because the oscillation between the two powers is what keeps it centered in the middle. You cannot, if you set up something good where you give out something to someone, and then eventually you look and the people that are getting the benefit of that thing are no longer the people who most deserve it, then you have to take the thing away from them and do it again with different constraints and whatever. And by the end of it, you're helping nobody. I don't know if you saw, there's a bunch of charities that publish the percentage of dollars that get down to the thing that's on their mission statement. And they were looking at like cancer research. 98% of the money that went for cancer research from this one charity went to administrators, right, and lobbying, and 2% went to actual cancer. Jeez. So that was a indication that in the beginning it was all about the cancer research, and then exploiters got in there and found out that they can become wealthy by being attached to a charity where people willingly gave to things. And then you're like, well, shit, that's what things become. They get exploited.
It is interesting. Sometimes when I was sort of back working with businesses through an old job I had years ago, I always found it interesting how well off some people were that worked for nonprofit. And I was like, wow, I wouldn't think that would be the case. I would think a nonprofit worker is somebody who believes in a cause, is doing it out of the goodness of their heart. There's probably not a lot of money in it, but it's very rewarding for them. And it was like, not like they were doing very well financially working for a nonprofit. And I was like, that's interesting.
I could only, if I thought of 10 machines, either be private, public, whatever, every machine except for one corrupts at a certain point. They all do. There's only one that I know of. There's a charity that on their mission statement was all of the administrators had to be donated, right? So the donors controlled the costs of the administrators rather than any of the funds that were in part of the charity. Okay. So if I gave money into it, I knew that the money that I gave to the charity was not going to any administrators because they couldn't. And so that was really the only math.
So their salaries were donated. Is that what you mean?
Right. So if I wanted to donate to administrator salaries, then that could go for compensations for administrators. But if I needed to donate to the charity, none of it could go to compensations for lobbying administrators. And that was the math that kept it that 100% of what got donated in went to the mission statement of it. And that's how you don't attract, right, the people who are just in it for the payrolls. I mean, American Red Cross, and think of any big ones and go ahead and look at their balance sheet and see what the CEO executives compensation is. It's not going to be like $60,000. It's going to be like millions of dollars. And so if you're a charity that has an executive that's doing $1 million, it's not really public service. It's just a machine that got corrupted to the point where they're just another executive.
Yeah. Yeah. And then people sort of get a bad taste in their mouth about that. And then they no longer want to support that charity or service.
Right.
And then that suffers.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you just sort of shot yourself in the foot. I'm probably not allowed to say that word.
You unalived your foot.
I unalived my foot just to make money for a charitable organization.
So we just happen to be living in a spot in history now where everything has been corrupted, right? Because ourselves, if we got into a position, we would try to make it so that we prospered as much as we could within that. We wouldn't be looking to give away, we would be living to take. And so no kidding that these things, if they don't have any corrective measures built in, they will always become that until, the scrutiny of the public. So what we were talking about, looking through the legislature and finding out how many of these people that make $100,000 and some $1,000s a year become multi-millionaires with tons of mansions, right?
Yeah.
And so how do they do that? Well, once you get and you see all this money flowing around in government, you're like, how do I get me some of that money? And you find out ways that you won't go to jail for doing it, but find methods to be able to capture as much of that flowing money as you possibly can, right?
Yeah.
And what's the balancing? What's the balancing? So it's transparency, right? But even transparency will be manipulated given enough time. Like the original transparency is good because you get to see it. And then people are like, hey, they can see what I'm doing. So all you get to do is change your strategy over to something else and obfuscate the transparency so it doesn't look like you. So I use the example. So I'm a legislator. So they're like, you can't trade stocks anymore if you come in there. And then I'm like, okay, well, that thing disappeared. But my buddy over here, he's not in government. He can totally make stock trades. So I'm going to whisper in his ear, hey, make this stock trade. And then he makes that stock trade. And we have a little agreement that I'm going to open up Joe's soap business and sell bars of soap for $1,000 a piece. Well, my buddy who made these stock trades, all he's got to do is buy some of my soap and the stock trade money will get right back to me. Now, how do you stop the soap factory, right?
Yeah.
You don't. You're just going to think of another manipulation until forever, right?
Yeah. I feel like I think we've talked about this before too, about if you're a business and you don't qualify for a grant. Doesn't mean you won't see that money.
No, you just take a broker.
Yeah.
You just hire a broker. They go get your grant money. They make you compliant with the grant and you get free money.
That's crazy.
So really, this is the argument for all the people who criticize the libertarian small government people. The only way that you stop this is you make it too small of a honeypot for anybody to waste their time on.
Yeah. How about the idea, I think maybe Isaac has brought this up before, about raising salaries to avoid corruption. Do you think there are certain instances that could be helpful, or are they just always going to sort of find?
Well, you would have to prove to me that there's a standard, a floor or ceiling on money and power. So when you get to X, do you adjust your lifestyle and then need more? And if you can find people who get to a spot and like, what? I don't need any more money. These billions of dollars, I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
People in the legislature are all most of them are all ego. Their goal is to get as much power and as much influence and as much money as they possibly can. The insatiable appetite means that you would have to prove to me that there is a floor, and I don't think there's a floor.
Like they would just get more and more.
Going. Once you get to X, now you want Y.
Yes.
And there are only certain types of people in our culture that do limit themselves. Like if you see, how can a monk, right, go off into nothing and disconnect themselves from ego and power, and they don't have any money, and they eat rice every day, and they drill themselves. There are people out there that go to that level, and maybe they should all be legislated. People who hate money. Like I'm running on a campaign of I hate freaking money and I don't want any.
Yes. It's the root of all evil.
But it's the reason people get into politics. The free access to power and money. All you have to be is good at being a politician, and you're set.
Yeah, because it for sure isn't the whole I want to affect change and help people.
They say that, but that's what gets
and
them
then
in.
that goes out the window.
And all they do, and one of our congressmen, Tim Ryan, I was a big fan of his. He was a Democrat. I'm a libertarian, so I disagreed with him on a lot of issues. But his personality and his willingness to shake things up and change it, right? He was one person that I would have bet money would have been another Jim Trafficant. And he would have gone there, been very unpopular, but he would have never lost that urge to push on the power that suppressed people and the tyrannical, type of ideology that wanted to squash little people, right?
Yeah.
As soon as he got into Congress, he just turned into a typical politician. And I've always been fascinated. I've had a chance to talk to him a bunch of times, and I could never get him off of the script. So the script you get inundated. Like once you're part of that club and you're like, hey, I want to get in here and do stuff. And they're like, well, no, if you do that, you're going to be a one-termer. We're not going to put you on any committees. You're not going to have access to any of the power and cash. And you're like, well, if I don't have any power, then I can't do anything. So let's go down the power avenue. Maybe I can get enough power so that I can do something. And then you get on that committee and the committee is like, well, no, we're going to have to constrain you. You're a really junior member of this committee. So we just need you to go along with it and help us. And then maybe we'll give you a little bit on the other side. You're like, well, if I'm going to amass power, then I'm going to have to do it. I think you get so entrenched in the game that you almost forget that you were there to enact change. And all you did was conform to the machine, and it told you what you were going to do and not do.
Yeah. You can't not play.
No, not at all.
You'll be gone. And that's why we can't ever get a third party or a libertarian or somebody in office, is they will eventually get pushed out.
It will mold you into conforming because of the hierarchy that if you're new, you can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so all the new people that have all this piss and vinegar and ready to do some change, they have no power whatsoever. And they're like, hey, if you want to get some, just do this. And you're like, oh, sell my soul? I'll do it.
Yes. It always makes me think of that quote from Batman. And I don't even know exactly how it goes, but it's something like you either die the hero or live long enough to watch yourself become the villain.
Yep.
That's government. That's the game.
In a nutshell. So all of us that are bought in to somehow that we can change things by paying attention to politics and being perpetually disappointed and that it's always the same deal. Oh, they said they were going to do it and they made a couple gestures to do it, but it didn't get done. Talk to me in 20 years and we're going to be passing this same football around in 20 years that we are right now. It never changes because it can't change. It is systemically barred from changing because the people that lose benefit by the change are the people that control the machine. So that math doesn't add up or work.
Yeah. You have me sitting here thinking now of words that we shouldn't say. I can't get that out of my head.
Just say them.
No, I can't.
Why?
Well, okay, you say a word. What's a word we should never say?
Fag.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Bad word?
That's a bad word. Unless you're British and then it's a cigarette. Because many, many, many years ago when I first moved down south, my very first boss was British. And he would always say, I'm going to go out back and have a fag. And I'd be like, you may want to just start calling it a cigarette. That doesn't hit American ears quite right.
Well, when we were little, okay, we lived in a different time where we did take an account for the words that you shouldn't use in polite company, right?
Yeah.
And sucker was a bad word.
Okay? Oh, yeah?
So if you wanted to use sucker, right? If you wanted to call someone a sucker, I would say, you're a sucker, like the kind you eat. And that's how you got away with using a word. And so human beings have been doing this forever, trying to like sneak an impolite word in there.
Like kids will go, why don't you go to hello? Or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we do it. We've been doing it forever. We've been floating things we shouldn't say. But there isn't. The reason I disagree with the standard on language is because the rest of culture is not trying to be polite. They're trying to be a slice of politeness where we like politeness to be. But if there was an overarching principle that we wanted to be, wear our best suits when we go out and engage in old English conversations and make it so that the most intellectual got in the positions of power, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But we are not doing that. We're making the dumbest people famous. We're using the most insidious language and articles. Like when we talk about health, if I say pharmaceuticals and drugs are really bad and we should get every human being that can get off of these drugs, get them off of it, completely defang the pharmaceutical industry. You know how improper that is to say, and how many people would gang tackle me, blaming them for being on the pharmaceuticals they're on and knowing that they have the change, I'd get gang tackled.
Yeah.
So it's very unpopular to suggest to people that they don't need the drugs that they're on. So you guys listening out there,
we're going to suggest you don't need the drugs.
So here's a challenge for you. I think 60 is the magic number, but at 60, the majority of 60-year-olds are on 5 medications that they can't get off of by the time they're 60. So my goal is you get to 60 and I get to 60 having no mandatory medications.
Can't get off of because their body won't allow it, or can't get off of because their provider will say you need this?
Well, no, they are now dependent on it because their doctors have all pushed them into medications to solve their problems rather than nutrition and lifestyle to get off of the reason they need those medications in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's our goal. Okay. Even if the whole world won't listen to us and they'll gang tackle us.
We say bad words.
Because we say bad words.
Yes.
We will get into the future and be the people that are not on pharmaceuticals and do have an understanding of what is required to become healthy and not create that dependence.
Yeah. Instead of like just taking something because you have this and then you got this, so now you need this. It's like, or you could, I don't know, eat proper foods, move your body, breathe.
The basics.
The
right?
basics. Yeah.
Jeff says, good morning. Great show. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for being here as always.
Not to circle back to the words, but another thing that's interesting to me is how some of them, how do you feel about words that like you can't say because of who you are, but other people can use them because of who they are? You know what I mean?
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Yeah.
I saw recently a video, somebody they were talking to someone who is part of the LGBTQ community, and they called themselves queer.
Yeah.
And this person said, when I was a kid, that was offensive. Like, is that how you want to be? Do you want to be called queer? Is that a bad thing?
Well, when we were kids, we had a game that we played almost every day called Smear the Queer.
Yeah.
You throw a football up and somebody would catch it and you would pummel them, tackle them in the ground. And at the time, queer did not mean homosexual. Yeah. Queer meant a weirdo, right? And we took weirdos and we ostracized them. We shamed them in being weird and bullied the crap out of people who are weird. So we invented a game, right? Idolizing the smearing the queer at the time.
Which is not nice, but.
Oh, we're nice now? Have we hit a plateau of niceness? Is that it? I mean, I see Trump is a Nazi. Is that nice?
Yeah, really.
Right? We're not looking for nice. No.
Yeah, because let's be nice and let's respect everyone's rights while I go key your car.
Yeah. So if you are in the pursuit of nice, I'll join you in that.
Yeah.
We'll start saying all courteous, nice, unmean things. But the minute that you lecture me on a nicety and you yourself
name call,
you want to insult and name call, you weren't real serious about the nice thing.
Yeah, like how about throwing words around in like rap music, for example, and then it's like, but if someone else is singing that song,
I don't care. I don't. It is all just words, right?
Yeah.
And my parents told me that words have the gravity of however I feel about
Sticks and stones.
And if somebody said, hey, Joe, you're short, right? I could decide whether or not I give 2 shits about if somebody called me short.
Yeah. You almost have to like take the power away from the word. Like women, I feel like, I know a lot of women that'll get really up in arms about like the C word.
Yeah. Again, don't care.
And I'm just like, if you're using it to invoke a response from me, to try to cut me and hurt me and do something, then all I'm saying is that's all, like, that's your play. Like you're trying to hurt me and I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to give you that because you use a word. You think a word is going to get me all amped up?
The thing that puts this in like a checkmate is that what is your play? What is the advantage? So if you and I, if I want, you wanted me to buy something, right? And your job was to sell whatever you have to use language that isn't going to make me not want to buy from you. Right.
Yeah.
And so if there's an exchange, a transaction between you and I, you have to govern yourself and not use things that are going to make it harder to do things that the thing that you're trying to do. So if your objective is to have all relationships be productive, then you don't say things that make those relationships unproductive. So when you're stupid, right, and you use language that makes you sound unintelligent, then other people should condemn you by not doing business with you. But so long that we keep making stupid and stupider people famous and making them productive, well, we've given advantage to unintelligent discussion. And so, but we're in control of that. So I'm not going to blame government or systems or whatever. Stupid people have too much of a say. They talk too much, right? And they make it give the advantage to more and better, bigger, stupid people. So again, we're doing this ourselves, and
we do everything to ourselves, and then we find someone else to blame.
Yeah,
it's your fault that I have to do this. No, you don't. And it's someone's fault. You're just being stupid.
Yeah. And that is why I say that a culture is down on the down slope of destruction, because we know this. What I'm saying is all truthful things, 100% truthful. You can't even argue with it. You can, rationalize around it, but these are all truthful things. So if everybody was like, oh, let me take a truthful nugget. Like if you exercise, your body will produce chemicals that bring down your anxieties and make you feel good and make you healthier. If I take that truth, if you could take everything you want to say about that truth, about how it's wrong, and put it way down in the stomach, almost like the C word, almost like the N word, right? Just stomach it, because it's not going to make anything better. Just take the truth and you resonate and you try to apply it to your world without trying to shoot it down so that you don't have to change and whatever. Then culture gets solved. But so long that we want everything that we don't want to do or don't like to be untrue and assassinate the character of the person that said it, we're stung. We're sunk.
Yeah, we give ourselves crutches. Ethics Virtue says, good points. Is there anything we can do about it? Yeah, probably stop creating crutches. If we have an issue, that is now everyone else's issue. There is no,
I disagree.
I have this. Really?
I disagree.
You don't think people are like pushing, hey, I've got a problem with cloudy days. And they upset me and I can't handle it. And I'm not going to come to work today, and I'm not going to go out, and I'm not going to do anything until the sun's out. And you're like, this is your problem, not my problem. You'll handle this.
I say ignore the shit out of the people who aren't going to do anything about it and just want to argue with it. You yourself, you create everything that you believe in, all those truths. You orient yourself 100%. You don't make excuses and say, since they're doing it, I'm not going to do it. You take full accounting and responsibility for yourself and set the standard. You will get all of the benefits, all of the health, the brain, the prosperity, and then you engage other people that are like you and there's a divided line, right? Yeah. Everybody who wants to say, I want to reward bad behavior, let them go off and do bad behavior, because it has a natural consequence of its own. You don't have to be involved in it. You don't have to occupy your time. Your time should be put into controlling yourself, and then you rewarding other people who also have that self-control, and make there be such a disparity between the two groups that you'll have those ones that were kind of just on the ideological train, seeing that there's no benefit and it's a disaster and I don't want to be part of it. And they'll jump over here, and then give them grace when they want to come over to the side of personal responsibility, and invite them in. Give them the same information you had to get there, and make the group bigger and bigger. It's going to take generations before the destructive ideologies that all they do is create victims and whatever.
Because we have people that benefit off of making victims.
But but let them create their own warehouses.
So like, here's your victims, here's the people who benefit from the victims.
Don't involve me in it. If you want to take your taxpayer money and you want to create your own victim groups, fine. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to find prosperity and health and happiness and peace. And there's one rule to get over into this club. Like, you don't get to infiltrate the club and change my mind about it. Hey, Joe, take some prescription medications, and you don't exercise today. That's not really that important. And you could come no, the influence has to come from the prosperous group that inspires and motivates the people out of the disaster. This is going to implode. That group has no mathematical advantage. They can put an unlimited amount of money into it, sure, but it's always going to be a disaster. Even if they inauthentically try to take those victims and make them seem like they're authentic, it will always destroy. This is natural and true. It will never be destroyed. And you will have the billionaires and the super healthy and everyone in this group. And I want curiosities, those fringe people on this side, to get curious about, hey, I want to be over there.
Yeah,
right?
how come they're doing so well?
That's the only way to get it. Everybody in this group has to know what got them there, which was the healthy thinking and healthy actions and self-disciplines of being a good person. And again, forgive that you weren't in that group before, but stay true to the mission statement of the group that's going to fork off this way and find that kind of prosperity and reward people in it.
Yeah, there are different studies and statistics I've heard about how you improve when you surround yourself
100%
with people who
it's
are
a truth.
improving.
Yes, you cannot argue with that. The only argument is when you say it's not fair that group who followed all the rules got prosperous. We want some of that prosperity too. The next thing out of your mouth matters. It's like I am not going to bring the standards down so that you can inauthentically be part of the group. Yeah. I want you to bring your standards up so you can belong to that group.
This makes me think of like back when people like started panic buying things and you better go do this. And I was told, you better go get gas. You better go get toilet paper. You better go whatever before it's gone. And I'm like, I will not. And I might be the only one in town that's not doing it, but I will not perpetuate this. This is stupid. Somebody's got to make it stop.
Yeah.
And I bet it's difficult.
The thing about it is like when true, especially in this realm of artificial intelligence, this should bring a light bulb in your brain, because artificial intelligence is going to learn truthful things, and it is not going to care about what that truth has implications, the implications on that truth, unless we poison the AI and tell it that it's got to feel a certain way about something because we decide to.
Yeah.
I want an unobstructed AI to just dig through truth, find out what the data says, and even if I don't like hearing it, serve me up what should happen. So if I say something like, what should I eat right now? Do I want what it really says, or do I want it to agree with me? And if we have AI that decides that it doesn't care what your thoughts about the data are, it's going to come to a different conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And it will serve the self-controlled, responsible people way better than the people say, oh, AI, why am I fat? Right?
Yeah.
AI is not going to say, well, it's because of systemic grocery stores that are poisoning you by making you eat food that's out of it. Unless the AI developers and engineers are like, oh, you know what? If I just tell them that they need to get on the treadmill for 30 minutes and eat certain foods and only do certain things, cut out maybe 12 or 14 soda drinks every day, they're not going to like that. So let's put, you're a victim. You can't do anything about it. And I just have to tell you how beautiful you look in your greasy glow, right?
Your greasy glow. Yeah.
But that hurts. When you say the thing, it freaking hurts, but doesn't change the fact that it's a true statement.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever watch Candace Owens?
Sometimes.
So I'm not a huge fan of her. I feel like she can be pretty harsh. But this is sort of that mindset of, I watched a little clip recently. She was speaking at a college, I believe. And somebody came up to the microphone and they're like, yeah, I have a question. How are you going to tell me how I feel? Because I know myself and I know blah, blah, blah. She's like, hey, then next question. Thanks for the statement. And someone else came up to the podium and they're like, how do you feel about people that feel personally attacked and offended that you're even here? She's like, I'm not your mommy. Life's hard. Next question. Because she's almost in this mindset at this point of like, if you can't be reached and you're not going to try to help yourself and you're not even going to come up here and have meaningful discussion and conversation and hear what I have to say, go over with that other group, go over with the other victims and let us all move on.
I really do have a problem though with the speakers who are just looking to own, right?
Like have those gotcha moments.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, like when Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro or
Charlie Kirk
or whatever, is it a rally to watch someone, sort of like murder someone conversationally, or was there a dialogue, or what was the point of doing it? So if I went up to the podium and I would ask, like, when you present this to the college campus or whatever, what was the reason? Are you got behind the I want to open dialogue thing? Because everybody who's watching your stuff is not watching it so they can be enlightened, right? They're looking at it to see who's more brutal.
Yeah. And what's funny is, like, I and you might not believe me, I really do watch it to be enlightened. Like, I watch a lot of debate videos because I always say there are two sides. People see things differently. I want to understand your side and form my own opinion. But so many of them are just people that are like, oh, I can't wait to go debate this person. I got him. And it's a game.
Yes.
Instead of anyone actually trying to convey information and understand someone.
Yeah. And that's why the long form interviews, when you take opposing views and you just let two people go at it who are holding their own. So like if which one was I listening to? Douglas Murray and what's his name? Anyway, they were talking, they came from two different persuasions, and Joe Rogan sat back and he just let them battle back and forth. Both of them were able to hold their own in the conversation. And so there wasn't like, it was a seasoned professional in front of a college student who was going to throw a grenade and make that person look foolish. There was something actually going to come of it. If you've watched one Charlie Kirk video, if you watch them all, it's the same, it's the same grenade launched over and over again, right? Just with either the person they're talking to is just more outrageous than the one that you watched before. So it's like, oh, the blue-haired person with ears versus the person that's in makeup and wearing a rainbow shirt on. Let's watch this one to see him get destroyed by Charlie Kirk, who has rehearsed this a few times.
Because all the videos too, even the videos are so biased. Like, it'll be like, watch so-and-so get owned by so-and-so. And so-and-so destroys so-and-so. And it's like, those are videos that are all served to Charlie Kirk fans.
Yes.
And then if you find a fan of like people on The View, then it's like, watch, I don't know their names, Sunny something destroy this conservative. Like, it depends on like whatever video you keep aligning with, then you get served that material in a language that appeals to you and you want to see it. So how many people will then say, well, show me another video then where the person I liked actually made a bad point and somebody else sort of brought up a good point. And it's so hard to actually find something that's not a show. It's like the new Jerry Springer is what these videos become.
Mr. Beast over the weekend posted on X that his highest video, right, was, I think he was buried in a coffin for 1,000 hours or something. His worst performing video was, I helped 1,000 people do XYZ. So what are we are crafting the presentation based on viewership. And so like you and I will talk about health, which it will be the lowest performing video that we've ever had, but yet will be the most dense in information, where there might, if we were able to take small, easy to understand disciplines that make the best health changes in your life and throw it out there to the same audience that would be watching I buried myself in a coffin for 1,000, hoping to pick off 20% of the people that watch it will take what we just said and then become healthier. The most amount of impact that we can have with information won't happen, will never happen, because the coffin people won't be made any better. They'll be made dumber, right? The person providing it will get the most amount of money. So if I'm putting videos together and I have a choice, do I need another coffin video that serves nobody for no reason? I'm going to make the most amount of money, or am I going to do one that helps a bunch of people, but next to nobody is going to see it? Which one am I going to create?
The one that's going to make you a bunch of money.
So Rebel Joe says, even though health is going to make this not even viewed, I don't care. I'm going to do the truthful, right thing, where I think why do we do these? We create conflict with words. We challenge people on what they think they know to maybe just peel off a couple of the people that their minds are changed on something and they might make a different decision today. So if I'm on stage and I'm in front of 1,000 people, right? Do you think everybody in that audience is going to be helped by the words that I say? So proportionally, if there are 100 people in that audience that will hear something in that and have a life-changing thing, should you go in front of people and alienate 900 people who are going to be like, wow, that's like the worst talk that I've ever seen in my life. Nothing's going to change. I disagree with everything he said. For the 100 people that actually got helped from the words that you say, could you do it and take the criticism of the 900 to get to the 100? I would do it all day long because I like the math on that. Yeah. Versus say something in front of those 1,000, won't make any change, but everybody will be entertained. So I compare it to Rome, and we all know that Rome fell. Why did Rome fall? Give me your best.
I don't even know. I don't know.
Because Rome fell under its own successes, right? What was when you had the Colosseum? What they did in there? Yeah. Okay. What did they put like science beakers and making things happen? They put a warrior and lions because everybody was so prosperous and bored that they wanted to see chaos happen in a controlled deal. And so Rome fell because of societal collapse.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? So YouTube is the new Colosseum.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we want to see death and destruction and chaos because we're bored out of our minds. We have no passion. We really don't. The only passion we have is in the own videos about someone destroying somebody else. And again, going back to ethics, virtue, is there anything we can do about it? I'm your cynic when it comes to this. I don't think you can do anything. It's not going to stop me from doing the unpopular thing to hope that I take a minority of the minority of the minority and try to make an impact on the people that are susceptible to want better and to know truth and, to not get stuck in the victimization and, the changing of words. My son and I had a conversation about Gen Z. Gen Z likes to invent new words, right?
Oh God. Yeah.
They do. Yeah. And they like to change the meaning of them depending on advantage.
Skibbity Riz toilet.
Well, not even that. Alpha. They want to take real words that mean something and change it into something that it doesn't even mean. And when they do that, it pisses me off. Right? But
doesn't every generation do that though? I feel like every generation has like their word.
In modern now, right? Modern society, we're so effing bored that instead of using our imaginations to fix problems, we fix things that aren't problems and make them into problems. That is the boredom that society poses.
Kind of like instead of writing a new story and creating a brand new script
100%,
and shooting a movie,
100%.
We gotta just keep redoing all the stuff we've already been doing.
Why is that? Why will there never be the classics ever created ever again? Yeah. Why will there just be a new vomit of something that we already have? Because we have the inability to take a risk, do something that no one's ever been done, hit the criticisms by not having broad appeal. We want the safe greenlit thing that will have mass deal. So if we're like, hey, we got a cookie cutter here, right? Everybody likes this thing. Here's something that is going to be very unpopular and not make $1 bazillion. Do we do the cookie cutter thing or we go take some rest? Cookie cutter thing every time.
Yeah, music is doing this.
For sure.
Do you know the song Anxiety by Doechii? I know you've heard it like on the internet.
Even if I did, I won't claim to have know anything about it.
It's a great, catchy, I sing it on a regular basis. It is a catchy song, but it is Go Chase Somebody You Used to Know. That song, it is that music. And she changed the words. She talks about anxiety, which everybody in this time has. And she put them together. And it's a hit. And it is the music from this song. And I changed the words. And I've hit.
Just like the politicians, when you enter the machine, do you go what's easy and what's supported? Or are you a change agent? Or are you going to push against the status quo? Pushing against the status quo makes you really unpopular and get criticism. So what are you going to do? People are freaking weak. They will go the path of least resistance. Happens in all of nature. So if you're gonna suggest that if you had some kind of talent, whether or not you're going to enter the machine and do the hard thing and not become as prosperous as someone who does the easy thing, I got it. Another thing for you: there are very few people that will do the hard thing.
Yeah. How many artists do you even see sort of like reinventing themselves to sort of fit a mold that will get them the attention? Like maybe they started off sort of in one lane and this is the way I express myself and it wasn't really going anywhere. So then they turn into this machine and what they're told they should be.
We had a term for that. Freaking sellout.
Yeah.
You had someone that made music and they joined the popular upstream and they took them there and you're like, this ain't what I fell in love with you for. This is a different thing.
I keep thinking about Meghan Trainor. I used to love, not that I don't still like Meghan Trainor, I do, but she had that hit song all about that bass and she was a thicker girl and she made a whole song about appreciating your body and being thick and how, you know, it was sort of that body positivity. And she is very thin now. And I said, okay, it's one thing if someone's like, listen, I need to get healthier. I need to make some changes to be a bit healthier. Fine. But she went like way the opposite direction. And I just said in an interview, it was like, hey, what are you doing to lose all this weight? You look so different. She's like, anything. I'm taking anything. I'll try that drug. I'll try that drug. I'm doing anything. And I'm just like, to get pencil thin, you're on these drugs now to be, what happened to the whole love your body and be yourself and don't need to worry about anything? And I went, they always go to that realm. It like people will just fall into the machine because that's what's going to work for them.
I have okay. So there was, what was the comic guy that was heavier dude and he lost a bunch of weight and everybody's mad at him because he
Seth Rogen?
No, it wasn't Seth. It was that other funny dude. Damn, what was his name? Anyway,
Jonah Hill?
Yes, yeah, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Same thing there. And I have no problem with it. As we evolve as, you know, from kids all the way to adults, we buy into things that satisfy us in the moment, and then we gather more information and we find ourselves along the way. That should be celebrated. I was dumb when I was young and I thought a bunch of things that weren't true, but I got smarter along the way and found out everything I believed one was before. And so it used to be that music and movies and television shows always had a hero that went through that evolution where they too weren't as good as they were going to be. And their goal was to keep leveling up as the story went along. We celebrated the end result and the path that they followed. We never along the way said that the hero on day one was his true self and he needed to just be celebrated with all of his, you know, scales and mold and whatever was attached to him. We wanted him to become better and sacrifice himself to become the hero that he, you know, the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
And now because we circumvented the evolution, we want people to feel good in all of those scales, that we remove the incentive for people who are also following along the way. But we know it. There's a natural instinct that when we see the fat dude and we want to be like, hey, you're good. We want to motivate you, whatever. Right. And then we watch him go from being a fat kid to getting on the bike to eating healthy. And then you see the after. And we all know that was a sacrifice that was worth it. And it didn't take us saying you're fat and you're stupid and you shouldn't do this. And hey, go enjoy your food and just celebrate where you're at right now. We're saying, if I could take my time machine and show you where you are in 10 years, right, and show that to you, you know instinctively that all your today's sacrifices lead to that. Go get it, buddy. You should want to be better than you are right now.
So what would you say? I've heard interviews where people were talking to Jonah Hill and they're like, oh, do you ever feel bad that, you know, you're not perceived as funny anymore because you're not fat anymore? Like, what would you say to somebody if they interviewed you and they're like, hey, you went and you made all these changes and now you're boring?
It's the truth. If we liked him in that other state, then he sacrificed his career in that state to become something healthier. He made a conscious decision to become a better person. And now it's probably not, he doesn't get as many gigs because he's not the person that he left. It's the simple advantage of like knowing what you're selling. And okay, so if I'm an artist and I'm singing songs about like Rage Against the Machine, right? I hate the machine, hate the government, you love me, whatever, right? If I'm like, well, all I'm doing is inciting anger from my fans and I don't want to be this person anymore. I want to go sing about love and prosperity. My product was X. getting everybody pissed off. And now my product's why. Now I'm singing about peace and harmony. Did I make the conscious decision to trade in the brand that once was to a brand that is different? And can I then complain that how come my fans won't join me over on the peace and love train? No, you're just appealing to a different audience and you've made that decision. It's always trade-offs. We make trade-offs every day and nobody feels bad that I decided to, in high school, forego going to parties and study calculus, right? I made a trade-off there. And now later on, when I'm really good in math and I'm solving big problems, the people who are partying are not like, hey, why does he get this? No, I made different decisions now to get to this. You made different decisions. Guess what happened when you were going to parties? You had benefits that you enjoyed. And I didn't think I was entitled to them when I was looking through my calculus books, right?
Yeah.
So now you don't get to want to take a part of the benefits that I forego, the instant benefits to get the long term. I'm going on a rant. This has been the rant show.
A rant show.
Oh my goodness.
I saw a really interesting interview one time with Alice Cooper. And he was talking about major life changes. He obviously, big, well-known rock star, sort of has this dark theme to his shows and almost like this evil kind of guy theme to his shows. And then years ago, in this interview, he was talking about how he is now a Christian and he believes that God has saved him and he took his addictions away. He doesn't drink anymore. He doesn't do drugs anymore. And it's a really interesting interview about him sort of turning his life around. And he reads the Bible all the time and he follows Jesus and he talks to people about God, but he still does the same shows. And everyone's like, well, how can you do that? And he's like, that's the brand. That's a show. That's the art. I am not that. I am this. My everyday life is here's me now. But this was the show and the art form that everybody wanted. So I go and I put on a show that is something else. How do you feel about that?
If I performed in Shakespeare and let's just say I'm Brutus, right? Right? I'm an evil guy. I am playing a role and everybody in the audience knows that the role that I'm playing is for their entertainment. And somebody comes after me in a show and say, are you really a madman who would stab a friend in the back? And I would say, no, I went on stage and I performed a role that you enjoyed. I'm not that person. So how stupid are audiences to think that if the brand is in conflict with who you really are, that somehow you are not being do we want all people that play all, do we want Bruce Willis to go after the bad guy and in his personal life as well? Like, we got to know that there's a separation between the brand and performance and theatrics and who you are as a person. And
we don't separate it. I mean, to be a little hypocritical, I even sort of did this. We were talking about Rachel Ziegler and the new sort of woke Snow White. I don't care for what Rachel Ziegler did when promoting this movie, so I'm not going to see the movie. Right. Now, Rachel Ziegler is not the character Snow White. This is a character. This is a role she's doing, but I still had a bad taste in my mouth.
But it's still, when you choose to spend your time on watching something, you are either rewarding the people that are doing it or not. So for instance, Michael Jordan played basketball. He did it really well. He sold a bunch of shoes and he played basketball, right? Mm-hmm. Really didn't do anything that you read in the newspaper that he was a bad guy or did anything. He honored the brand and never did anything to make him less money. And he never made less money. Pick athlete that infused political expressions during their basketball, right? Now, they didn't honor their brand. They didn't just play basketball. They used their platform to then lecture other people, and they diminished their brand. I'm okay with either one doing it, but Michael Jordan is not lecturing me on how, even though he did something, he made a sacrifice to keep what he felt on the cup, just, at the vest, right? Yeah. And you didn't. And you purchased the response, the criticism.
Like Alice Cooper isn't going to stop his show to say, can I tell you about your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
If he did, I would not begrudge him from using his platform however he wants. He just has to be okay knowing that what he's doing is going to alienate the brand. And then he can't be like, how did that happen? Yeah. Because that's what you purchased by not honoring whatever it is you did. And again, so I don't feel bad for Jonah Hill or Meghan Trainor, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just bought a different brand, and as long as they're cool with it, I'm cool with it. But if they're acting confused about how that happened, is where I start saying, well, wait a minute, is your brain really not function that you were willing to make that sacrifice and think there were going to be no repercussions on it?
Yeah. And my thing is too, is what gets me is why they would do it. Like if Jonah Hill, is like, hey, my health is really taking a turn for the worse. I'm in a bad way. I've got to start getting healthier. And he does. Good for him. But when I see someone that I think is doing it just for the culture, just because the Hollywood people are like, hey, you need to get thin. You need to fix your teeth. You need to whatever. That's when I'm like, oh, what a shame. I feel for those people. Like, I don't know if I believe that Meghan Trainor is doing this for health reasons. She may, and she may to a point. What I saw sounded like somebody who's been pressured. You have to have a certain look in this industry, and you're going to do whatever it takes to get that look. And that to me just feels so like it's not genuine. Their health is not at the forefront of what they're doing. And that's when I'm like, oh, I hate to see that.
But again, if Jonah Hill got there because he was on the hero's journey and wanted to become better, that's one thing. If Meghan Trainor felt the pressure and did the things not because she was looking for health, it was more she was exhausted of the critics and whatever, then that is a mental health thing that is not part of this conversation. So let's change gears a little bit. I was a big fan of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. It was one of my favorite issues. I love sports, and that was my. You
love sports, so you love the swimsuit edition
for sure.
Oh,
I want to support the brand, and that was their.
You love those athletes.
Love.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Are they athletes? I don't even
think so. No.
But anyway,
some of them
at a point, they put the product on the pages that would sell the most amount of magazines. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And let's just say it was unfair who they picked to put in there. So you have all the guys that can't wait to run up to the newsstand. And if there were these types of ladies, right, mm-hmm. I would be happy buying that product. If there was these types of ladies, I might be a little disappointed in the overall product. So who gets to win? What someone thinks I should like, or what I actually like. And if I go the route where I'm like, I don't really care what the guys want to look at, this is our expression that this is what we're going to put up. And if all the guys who like that don't buy the magazine in the future, right? Now that's what you purchased. You wanted less people to buy into it. So if I had a beauty contest and I said, you know what, this is a beauty contest. I don't want there to be any more beauty here. I want to take whatever the standard of beauty is, and I want to lower it so that everybody watching is like, oh, that's not pretty. And then everybody would look at it. It's now not a thing. And the brand drops out. When the brand drops out, everybody's like, hey, that was a really big mistake. Let's put beauty back in there. And then everybody starts watching again. Isn't that like a scientific realization of what someone likes? And I'm just giving someone what they like?
Would you though still sort of vote for that idea of, we're just giving someone what they like, even if it could be considered, I don't want to use the term toxic. That just seems so cliche, and I don't know. But if it's like, hey, we're not selling magazines when we put women with real bodies on here, so we better go back to anorexic people that have body issues and slap some makeup on them because that sells magazines. Would you be like, well, that's not good for these people, but it's what sells and it's what I'll buy? So
on a spreadsheet, if you were like, the more body positivity that we put out there, then people that are healthy get too comfortable and there's no pressures to get healthier, versus the standards that might have a lesser amount of people who are pursuing things that are unhealthy, but then cause pressures to get more people healthy. If the ratios are in line.
Yeah. And I'm not saying body positivity on unhealthy. I'm saying healthy, not unhealthy in the opposite.
But I'm saying what it influences. If you take, so if there's a negative pressure, like the friction that you're okay. So if I said you're stupid, right, is different from saying, hey, you got bad grades because you're not using your brain right. And you might not like to hear it, but it might inspire you to go get better grades versus saying you got bad grades, but it's because your neighborhood and whatever. So it's really not your fault. One of those things is going to be just negative, doesn't cause any good. One of them might be just enough friction to make you study a little bit harder because you don't like the criticism of having bad grades. So the influence is that you got better grades because of a negative friction that pushed you there versus there being absolutely no pressure when we just accept that having no merit and no talent and no health is completely acceptable. What if you were like, we removed all the standards of unhealthy people that were anorexic and putting a standard that was hard to achieve, but then we committed 10 million girls to having no pressure to actually run and even if it was for the worst reasons, more people become unhealthy because we were trying to protect the 20 people that were pursuing a standard that was really high, but they did it unhealthy.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, I feel like this is what we do. We take things too far. Like, you got to see this so that you feel some kind of way and you don't want to let yourself get too unhealthy because you want to look like this. But then you go too far and now you're unhealthy because you tried to look like that. So let's do away with that. And let's say everybody's beautiful, but then you're unhealthy in the other direction. And now you have those health issues. So you got to come back this way. It's like, how the heck do we get it to where the standard is? You don't. And that's what I'm saying. Like, all of these good things are that pendulum swing. We get to decide how far we allow to go in the other direction because we know from a physics standpoint that it's going to come swing back in opposite and equal other side of it. So if you pull it back really far, you have to know that every inch you pull it back in the direction that you like is going to have an inch in the other direction that you don't like. Yeah. And the way that you do that is like, okay, well, we have these pendulum swings where we have these erratic oscillations between fringes that we don't like. Let's decide that when we have the power and pressure to pull it back, that we let it go in the other direction. We let it swing back in the other direction so that we'll find a homeostasis, a balance between those two things. Humans beings, the more bored we are, the more we feel like we're going to keep pulling it back until someone pries it from our hands, means that culturally we're going to get worse and worse and worse in those opposite directions. Yeah, because you almost have to be then the bad guy to try to bring it back. Like, hey, we don't say those words anymore. Yep. Well, why the heck not? We got to bring us back the other way. At equal volume, right? So picture what the equal volume looks like on the other side of this. It's not good. In any way you think about it, it's not going to be good, because if you inauthentically, well, we'll use two examples. So if you inauthentically take something that is rejected by everyone and force it on everyone, okay? Yeah. So if we like drinking beer and Dylan Mulvaney, somebody thought that it was really good while we had your attention over here, that we're going to cram some kind of social message down on you. And we're thinking, okay, when this goes in the other direction, where someone gets a chance to cram their social message on you, but it's going to be in a direction opposite of you. Think of any fringe deal that somebody now is going to take the liberties to devalue a brand, to cram a social message. Did we ever have those in our history? Social messages that got crammed down on you? Yeah, like in a different way, maybe. Oh yeah, an opposite way, for sure. Yeah. And think the volume that they're going to be when they slide in that other direction. So when's the best time to make a compromise, right? Do you notice how, like, when you start losing the pendulum, you want nothing but compromise? Like, say the Democrats were in power and they're like, you know what? One day the Republicans are going to be in power. So let's do this. Let's make it easier for compromises and to happen in this body. I know we have power and we can run completely in that direction. And if we run completely in that direction, when they get in power, they're going to run completely. We don't want that. So let's like throttle back a little bit and say, hey, we know we could go this far. We don't want to really go this far. Let's buy into the future so that you don't run that far in the future. 100% not going to happen. Yeah, you got me thinking now, like, gosh, remember, I've heard that way, way, way back in the day, you were not allowed to show a married couple in bed together on TV. Like, that's why all these like old shows have like 2 beds and a husband and wife are in 2 different beds, and you couldn't even a married couple, you couldn't show them bed together on TV. And then we went,
Opposite
you
direction.
can watch them do just about everything on TV. Yeah. It used to be like, hey, push these ideas, push these values, push this. And then we said, hey, quit pushing those on us. We're going to go ahead and rebel, and we're going to take it all the way to a harmful state. And then when you try to bring that back, whoa, don't impose on my harmful state. You're pushing your values on me, and you're the bad guy for calling it out and using words I don't like to call it out.
All right. So one last topic, and then we'll get out of here for the day. I've been thinking about the population collapse and all of the things that contribute to us really being in a big predicament here locally in Youngstown, as well as the nation and the rest of the world. And I don't necessarily think that most people have a real good bead on how destructive this is going to be for everything.
I was just going to say, I've heard bits and pieces. Like, you always hear Elon Musk, mention that we've got to have more kids and our population is dwindling. Like, do you know, like, where are we right now? Is that a real threat right now?
100% a real threat right
Currently.
now. Currently.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So from a, not even a societal or a cultural thing, let's just look from a math thing. Okay. So if you reach a level of attendance, we'll say 300 million people are in the United States, in order to support everything the way that it is right now, right? You die, right? So you have to consider, if you have 300 million and 150 million of those people, half of them are girls and half of them are boys, and they get together and they have offspring. So you have to have 100% participation from all people, to then you have 2 people involved, and they have to get together, they have to procreate, and they at least have to create 2 new human beings to replace themselves when they die. Okay. So if you wanted to construct and alter the math, if you wanted there to be less couples that could procreate and also not have babies, what would you do? Well, you can control, let's put couples together that can't procreate. Let's make them infertile and have less babies. Like right now, I don't think we're at the total infertility rate that we're going to be in the next 5 or 10 years, but our reproductive, like I think it's 1.6 is the average of kids. So when you take all the couples that are having babies and you divide it down by whatever, we're below replacement value, so that we are having 0.4 kid reduction in the current generation, which means there are going to be less people to couple together, to procreate, to have replacement kids. So when you have less people, now it's going to have to go over replacement value to build back up. So what are we instituting in culture to diminish it? So you get rid of the family, right? The family, that's whole goal was to create more of themselves and have a house and, go get a job and make more of them and have grandbabies and whatever. You diminish that, culturally rip that out. So that's not even a thing. You have a bunch of single people, and the only babies that you produce, or a majority of the babies that you produce, are outside the family. Well, in a family, in a household, you actually want the babies, and you on purpose had them. Outside of the family, now it's something you didn't really plan on and really don't want to have. So the risk that you terminate the pregnancy and don't have those babies goes up exponentially great. So destroy the family means that you have unwanted pregnancies, which means that you have less replacement human beings on this planet, right? Mm-hmm. Infertility, the drugs and the pharmaceuticals, the things that we're disrupting, the metals we're intaking, all of the health things that we're doing makes us less fertile. So even when you want to have babies, that you can't have them because now your body has a harder time producing things naturally. It next goes to IVF and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Pornography, like the influences of men have taken off of what inspires men to want to have babies, right? Yeah. Is number one, the things they are gatekept away from them. The influence to that they're attracted to the opposite sex. And if they can get all the things that they would inspire them into a marriage and have kids in the beginning, before your hero's, thing is there, take that all away and you just have instant access.
I was just going to say, from a social standpoint, the whole, the way we date now and the dating apps and the social media, it's like, it's almost like they're in such just this wide world of finding someone new, and like they might sleep around, they might go on a date, but nobody wants to actually commit and couple and marry.
Well, if you're a woman today in the dating scene and you can go to an app and date and have sex with 20 guys in one day, if that's what you wanted to do, options 100% open to almost every woman. Guys don't have that same thing. So the pursuit is there, but once you take it and make it unlimited, who do the girls end up choosing, right? The top 1% of the presentation. Because if you got your pick of everybody, you're not picking below a certain level. So like you're taking 90% of the guys that otherwise, if they lived in a small town and didn't have the dating app, there would be some compromises where women would pair up with someone who weren't the perfect top 1%. But now when you have unlimited, girls are choosing the top 1%, and 90% of the guys, you know what they got to find, right? They have to find pornography and filling all of their needs outside of a relationship. So you're watching guys' inspiration to find a mate go way down because of access and porn, and the options infinite for women through apps and all the rest of the technology. So again, we're just layering up the reasons why we're going to have population decrease of what's happening with technology and with people. So you break the family, give free access to porn. The next thing that's going to destroy it, we need to one up ourselves from this point, are robotics, sex robots, and access to VR and having relationships. I get advertisements for AI girlfriends just about every day. Every day. Hot AI that look exactly like video, who are talking to you like another person.
This is like on a computer, or you're talking about like the
applications, VR. Yeah. No. First, it's going to manifest in a virtual reality world where you can have someone that you can see and interact with and talk with, have sexual discussions with, and so masturbatory aids that are off the charts as far as.
So how they used to be like, oh, hot college co-eds talk now. Now it's like hot computer program.
Exactly. But I can get everything that I otherwise would get in a relationship. And I could just do that with an AI person that will do exactly what I want. Zero conflict. I don't have to invest in another human being. No frictions. Perfect in every way. How many of those 90% who are not getting chosen through dating apps because they're in the 98% that aren't the 1% are just going to go to the refuge and create the fake one that are real in enough ways to satisfy all of my urges? Now I have no reason to pursue a problematic woman who's nothing like me. It's going to cause all kind of problems when my AI girlfriend will tell me awesome. Tell me I'm awesome.
I want.
Right. And then you put in a physical aid where VR, you could see it, and the robot, I could feel it. I have everything now I want. I don't need a woman. And now reverse it, and the woman could do the exact same thing. Now they have the same aids that fills in all of those niches that they desire.
They even make like cuddle pillows.
100%.
So if a woman's like, I don't have a man, but here's a big pillow that's in the shape of a man, and so now I get my little.
So we filled all of the roles that a human relationship would do in a perfect way, even better than a human being can. So there are going to be fewer and fewer people that choose to have a family relationship and produce enough offspring to replace themselves once they die.
Yeah. And stay together to raise them in a proper way rather than just.
And everybody's life is busy. So having 2 kids is a huge compromise on your prosperity, right?
Oh, I was just telling someone yesterday. Somebody told me, oh yeah, my friend so-and-so, they've got like 5 or 6 kids. And I went, holy cow, no way. You can keep that. I can't even imagine dealing with that.
So there is zero things I mentioned inspired taking serious that we're not having enough babies and we got to do all the things that make babies more likely to happen on the ledger, versus everything I mentioned lowers the potentiality in producing more offspring. Where do you think we're headed? Absolutely population decimation, not even decline, decimation.
So Jerry says, what piece does the conspiracy theory that COVID was to thin the population play in this?
I don't think it may have been an intentional thing. I think that evolution is a bitch. And I don't think you get to outsmart evolution. So it's one of those things where if you create a lot of dependent people who are unhealthy and are right on the edge of death, and we want to spare them from death, nature bowls in something that just culls that population and takes out the ones that were on teetering on that, that if it wasn't COVID, it was. Do I think there was a master plan to cull the population because of it? No, I think it's neglect and stupidity that created that result, but I don't think it was all intentional.
See, I knew someone years ago that totally bought into this theory that COVID was released and the vaccines were released in order to create a superhuman race. That if you were weak and you couldn't survive it, they're trying to get rid of you. And everybody who was strong enough to survive is going to be of a certain caliber and a certain race and a certain...
Well, hold on. Let me do this. And I ask everybody, do not edit or clip this and use it on its own. Please.
Don't take this out of context.
Yes, please don't. So I'm going to say that every 3 seconds so that the clips won't make sense and it'll just be me putting the little asterisk.
Go and watch the context.
So if you are a Darwinist, someone who believes that who should breed and who should make a stronger, more survivable species, would handpick certain things about people and make sure that the weakest do not breed and create more weak people. So when eugenics and when people are picking out, like, I'm not talking a certain race as being superior. I'm saying objectively mathematical traits that make a species more survivable. So if I went through and took, what your fertility, so you had, when what China did. So China decided that their population was too great. So they took certain women out of the pool and you weren't allowed to have babies in order to take, some population out of circulation. If you want to do the opposite and like, let's go to Mars and I only want to have engineers populate on Mars. So I'm going to take certain people that have a mathematical, logical brain and I'm going to match them up and they're the only people on Mars and they're the only ones that are allowed to breed. Give you a license. If you're strong, you breed. If you're not strong, you don't breed. And then you breed in the things that you want in your civilization and you sort of stop the ones from breeding that. In a nutshell, that's what these, whatever I don't want to use the terms that are going to get this cut out. So I'm not
say the word.
I can't say I can't say the word. But anyway, so if you're a strict Darwinist, then you know that giving license for everybody to breed, like for a population to not die, right?
Yeah.
We at least have to have the numbers of just warm bodies breeding. But if we wanted to take a step further, like what happens if we get into a go breed and only dumb people go out and breed? And we're like, this is idiocracy in a nutshell. Yeah. All the other people don't have enough time to do it. Their stresses make them infertile. They don't have time to invest in babies. And all we did was we asked for warm bodies and shit. We should have been more specific that we don't just want warm bodies. We want contributors to society. Crap. Now we got enough people, but we don't have enough capable people. And now we're screwed.
Yeah. Cause it's that slippery slope of like, hey, let's make it so, you can't abort a pregnancy. You have to have children. Our population is dwindling. So just have the baby. But not in all situations, people. Watch the context. But if that child is raised in an environment that is not going to make them an intelligent, functioning member of society, then are we just hurting our society by populating it with idiots, so to speak? Is that better than having a smaller population?
I hate even talking about this realm where we have to almost take the merit and use that as a guiding principle on who breeds. Like that is either the worst conversation to have, and it makes me feel evil inside that there's math connected to it, and I don't want to even talk about that math.
Because you have a social pressure against it. And you can have a field day with even everything that's been said in this really mini. People are going to take clips of this and think we are terrible people. We're not.
Maybe we are terrible. Maybe we are.
Listen, we're just having open conversations and we're giving thought-provoking ideas out there.
Yeah, if you got a better idea, if somehow, if you're on team, let's let everybody breed, even if we get some, bad offspring versus being more controlled and who gets to breed. And
how do we not go too far one way? If it's population is dwindling, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to even replace ourselves, versus now we've got a population of idiots because we just let everybody breed and not handle how they do it.
That's why I'm a cynic and know that that's our downfall, because these aren't things that I know which direction we're going to go, and I know what the outcome of that's going to be. And I don't have a mathematical response because we're not going to do the things that make that not happen. So that's just where we're headed. I mean,
yeah. Are we going to get rid of all the weird social constructs that is social media, so people have to organically meet again and talk and like each other?
And maybe technology is that we're going to take a little swab and we're going to send it into a lab when we're of procreating age. And the lab, when we're ready to order a baby, we go out and push the numbers, and they just send us our baby using our own DNA that we sent to them. And then we'll have to worry about all the sex that we get is happening in with our robots and whatever. We don't even have to interface with another human being. And so all of genetics is going to be controlled by science, and we don't have to worry about the natural process anymore. Maybe that's your solution. And they won't, if the lab is making your baby, you don't have to worry about dumb ones being made, because they'll be able to edit the genetics so that the pieces that create dumb kids will be missing, and will make smart kids even from dumb hosts.
Well, one, that creeps me out.
Okay,
and two, what happens when that becomes corrupt?
Dude, I know it will. Like this. Yeah, but that's why we talked about it. All right, let's get things wrapped up. Thanks everybody for listening today.
Sorry we freaked you out.
Tonight we're doing a fundraiser for the Quiz Bowl kids. We're going to be live streaming that, where the 4 of us dunces go up against high school kids and see who wins. It's not going to be us. I can give you. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your